Back to the Benin Network Center. We'll be taking you through the benefit or the impact of the fuel subsidy removal. As President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has already informed us yesterday that the fuel subsidy has been removed. All right, so what you need to know and how is it going to pan out as the days goes by, it's some of our major concern as a nation. This morning from the Benin Network Center, we'll be looking at the fuel subsidy removal. Like I earlier told you, President Bola Tinubu has announced the removal of fuel subsidy from July 1st, 2023, emphasizing that his government will not provide funds to subsidize the product. He actually announced this on Monday during his inaugural speech as the 16th president of the nation at the Eagle Square in Abuja. Of course, Mr. Tinubu said he's taken this decision because the 2023 budget has not provided for the payment of fuel subsidy from the second half of the year. And of course, you like to know that as soon as he made that proclamation, long queue returned back to our fuel station. Now, the first question is, what is fuel subsidy? As some persons are asking. I have some persons here with me in the studio. Together, we'll be extracting the front line of the discussion. From my immediate left is Comrade Collins Amadi. He's a grassroots politician. Thank you so much for coming.
DPO, good morning. Good morning, viewers.
All right, sitting very close to him is Comrade Onyinyechi Doris. She'll be joining us on the conversation. Good morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
All
Good
right,
morning,
and of course.
viewers.
Okay, from my extreme left is Barrister Israel Adodo. He's a clergyman, a legal practitioner, and a civil rights activist. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, let's just start with you. Fuel subsidy. What is fuel subsidy?
All right, and basically, like the word subsidize, anytime that word is used, it already connotes a system where things are done in such a way as to lessen the burden of the end users. Now, the concept of fuel subsidy has its origin in Nigeria. Firstly, it can be traced back to the year the 70s. Now, it was a time of some level of oil boom where there was a conflict between the Israeli and the Arab, and as a matter of, because of that, there were the oil market shifted to some countries that before now we are not selling that one. So Africa and Nigeria was one of such countries that enjoyed that. So because of the extra fund that was gotten, because of the high demand for the oil from this nation, and there was need for the government to look at ways it can assist the citizen. So in the 70s, we had subsidy for nearly everything in this country. We have subsidy for education, and I'm sure you know up to now, education is still subsidized. That's why in the public university up to now, you see student pay as low as 12,000, 15,000, and all of that. So education was subsidized, milk was subsidized, sugar subsidized, etiquette subsidized, and fuel was also subsidized. So with time, it became nearly impracticable to sustain it. So the subsidization was removed from certain products, but that of education, oil, had remained over the years. And the reason why this was important was because that was what bettered the origin of the word national cake. It was believed that the only way the citizen can have a bite, a slice of the national cake was from such subsidy. But as time goes on, it became very clear that the funding for this product was nearly impossible to be raised. So it was removed from some sector, but for fuel, education, it has remained. Now, that was how we got here, and that has been the situation.
Okay, so we just needed to set the ball rolling for the benefit of those who doesn't really know what fuel subsidy is. Now, does it have any impact on our nation, Comrade Doris?
Okay, I think I have a different view concerning subsidy, fuel subsidy, from what he said. Subsidy here entails dollarization of exportation of this crude oil the cost of importation and cost of dispensing, let's say, making it available to every Nigerian. So that process of dollarization, government comes in to fund those expenses on behalf of the end users to make it readily available for the people at a very cheaper rate. That is the subsidized rate, at a very cheaper rate. That is exactly what subsidy entails. Now, subsidy also cuts across other commodities like the agro products, education as well. But basically, the main focus is on oil subsidy. Fuel subsidy here, because our economy is tied to source of energy generation, which is petrol that we use, or we say crude oil that we use in generating energy for production, for other activities or economic activities. Okay, here our economy is tied to this fuel and the monetary policy. Okay. These are two basic things that determines what happens to our economy. And the impact also the citizens feels is also tied to these two elements or policies. Okay, now the fuel subsidy and its removal by this current administration, which is the 16th president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
President Muhammadu Buhari actually said it has been removed.
No, it did not start from, this policy of removing subsidy did not start from even Buhari.
Of course.
It was the President Goodluck Jonathan who came up with this policy to remove the fuel subsidy. 2011. But there was something that happened. The economy was spurred, was stirred in the sense that there were programs, there were pre-programs that was launched, which was targeted to address or arrest the effects of this subsidy removal on citizens. Okay. To help them cushion the effects of this subsidy removal. That was why we now had the Shopee program, the UWin, and stuff like that. Right. That was launched.
Okay, we'll
but
come
today
back.
Is a continuation. You know, government is a continuum. It's something that someone has laid the foundation that others followed suit. Same with the cashless policy that failed. Okay, fuel subsidy removal was also part of it, and the idea is laudable, is a good recommendable policy that if we those in power has the political will and we the citizens are patriotic enough, I think this is something that will always position us on a very good position.
All right,
yes.
I'll come back to you,
yeah.
But just to let our viewers know that every opinion on this platform counts, and whatever opinion expressed by our guests is their personal opinion on the show. Let's come to you now, Kole Samadi. The same people who actually told us back then that fuel subsidy is a scam, they are the same persons that are telling us fuel subsidy has been removed. How do we correlate this?
I don't really know when you say the same persons who told you fuel subsidy was scam, and the same persons are saying has been removed.
When Goodluck Jonathan told us about the fuel subsidy sometimes.
Now, President Jonathan, now let me come to
the present president, he was part of those who protested against it.
Every government, before they assume office.
So how do we correlate it?
There have always been this issue of subsidy being a scam. Why was it a scam? Ordinarily, just as my barrister friend said, the intent from the beginning was not to scam the people. But when you begin to elect people to manage a certain area or an institution, and their hands are so unclean, issues begin to arise. Otherwise, when the issue of subsidy just started, it was a way to really eliminate and give people that sense of reduction when it comes to high cost at each point, whether in education. That was why you saw that some were running in a full-fledged scholarship.
Yes.
Whether even in agriculture, as she said, that was why you saw that there was this fertilizer at the time. Government was procuring them to help subsidize the burden that the farmer will go into. So all of those things were there. But when fellow Nigerians now had the opportunity, those who felt they were smarter, to manage them, where they are supposed to distribute 20 fertilizer, they will tell you it's 150 fertilizer. And the burden on government was becoming very high. When 100 liter of crude oil was to be refined, and they tell you it is 50,000, and government now pay essence, and that was why the burden became high. And that was why even when they tried to check papers to find out, they were realizing that this thing seems scam. If we say we are subsidizing 200 million liters, and we expect that 200 million liters, quote and unquote, should assist Nigeria for the next 1 month, and you realize that after 2-3 days, they will tell you that the 200 million or 2 million liters that they subsidize is finished, and they need another money to go and subsidize another. The burden became high, and every government were crying. And now, the best person who would have been able to rephrase this issue for us, because it was a burden, and now I'm sure this is one gift that Nigerians will not forget former President Muhammadu Buhari in a hurry for. Because you know why? Now he has to help prepare a page for a new Nigeria, because probably he made the mistake by not taking the bull by the horn at the time he just came. Now you can blame me for forever. I go with that burden, but let me help to set a stage for this one to begin, because now this one we need to prepare another budget. You cannot now start preparing another budget in the middle of a year for another to bring it back what has been removed by way of law. Now, in all share, Nigeria will be better for it. All right. We must be factual. Nigeria will be better for it. Because so much is being spent in the name of subsidizing.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Now, Barrister Israel, to an extent, some persons are of the opinion that this is a right step in the wrong direction, owing to the fact that if this had come to play in 2011, I would have gone past the pain of facing the removal of this issue. Do you think that is okay?
Basically, my take on that is this. Now, I'm not very good at media, but I've experienced some trick in media. That, for instance, if a system wants to project something for people to accept, what they do is, at first, they bring it out through the media. Now, you perceive it, you get irritated, they withdraw it back as a way of making you feel they really feel your concern. But later, they bring it again. Now, your reaction the second time will be lesser because you have had an idea before. Now, they reduce it a bit.
So what are you trying to say?
Now, the point is, what successive governments have done in Nigeria, I think there's no better time to remove subsidy in this country than now. Okay. All right? What successive governments have done is that gradually they have been exposing us to it. They have been trying to allow us perceive it. You know, nobody is a bit being about. There are no protests on the street. You know why? Because we have bought fuel 400 naira, 500 naira just early this year. Yes. You understand? Mm. So there was a taste of it. At a point, it was almost being normalized, because in Africa or in Nigeria, we are believed to be people that gradually or we adapt to things. So whether with time, Nigeria we adapt, you get it. But this is what I want us to understand when it comes to subsidy. There's nothing wrong with it. As a matter of fact, in the month of March, Ghana had to even remove it. The International Monetary Fund has kept advising Nigeria that subsidy needs to be removed if you want to grow this nation. So the problem is not the removal. If you ask me as a concerned citizen, our issue is what will happen to the fund that will be saved in the process of totally removing subsidy. What are the steps government will take to cushion the effect of subsidy removal? Okay. That's the problem. There's a mistrust that now this money you are removing, you are going to, because like my brother was saying, you see, removing subsidy has become overdue. Ghana only did it for 30 years and they are already waiting. Nigeria is more than 30 that we have been burying this bond. Okay. So it was the right time, is the best thing to do, but the question is, what is the belief? What is the certainty that when this money is removed, it will be taken there?
Okay.
You know, people that were saying that, please, I'm sorry,
All right.
people that were saying that subsidy is a fraud, is that, they were not entirely wrong.
Okay.
Now, what brought about the issue of fraud, like you were saying, is that when certain liters of fuel is subsidized, it is believed that this fuel should be sold to Nigerians at that particular rate. But what these marketers were doing is that there are no countries that are neighboring countries that need our products where they can smuggle this fuel into. So when they
make more money.
Yes, when they buy this fuel at the subsidized rate, which is supposed to be for the interest of Nigerians, they take it to the neighboring countries and sell it there with the impression that it was sold to Nigeria. They are now making extra gain and selling at that amount. That was why, I don't know, recently if you go through I ran into something on Twitter 2 days ago. It was the World Bank president, the former Minister of Finance in Nigeria. He was making a statement. He said when they came into government, they discovered that when they did an audit on the amount that was subsidized and what was to be paid, they discovered that there was a huge difference in it. So they were worried. More than $2 billion was added as what should be subsidized without proper accounts. And when I heard the story for the first time 3 days ago, and when she was going through the account, she said, no, this one is too much. We are going to have to sit down. Let's compare paper. Let's see how this $2 billion was added. He said it was in the process of her trying to see how that issue can be corrected. Her mother was kidnapped. He said when her mother was kidnapped, and one of the conditions upon which her mother was to be released was that she should resign as the Minister of Finance. Okay. He's on the public space. This is what I'm telling you. You can go and verify. He said it was after everything that she made up and said, no, if whatever would happen, let it happen, because she has taken an oath to ensure that the proper thing is done in this nation. So the problem has always been the people.
I'll come back. I'll come back to you. Let's come to Doris now. Corruption and issue of trust. Should Nigerians trust this present government to deliver?
Okay, let me tell you something. We have a problem. And the problem we have here, my people, we need to embrace behavioral change. Okay. We need to brace up, have this behavioral change first. Then, secondly, look, the World Bank did a survey in Nigeria, and they discovered that the problem that we have ties around 3 segments, 3 sectors: procurement, environment, and social standard. Now, let me talk a bit about procurement, the problem with procurement. The problem we have in Nigeria does not really tie to governance alone. There are things that we do as Nigerians, as individuals, that at the end of the day, it harms the national progress. Now, in the aspect of procurement, you will see a contractor bidding for a job, okay, that is advertised. Now, the condition that will be given to the contractor will be that if this project is awarded to you, this is the amount, original amount, we are going to, this is behind closed doors, we are going to pay you. And you are going to deliver based on that amount delivered to you. So what would the contractor do? What will be left for the person to do is to reduce the quality of products and services that's supposed to J into that project. Now, we begin to have substandard projects everywhere with a huge amount of money approved and allocated to it. Some will not even be completed. Some will just be unveiled and abandoned. Okay. Money gone. Now, when we talk about the environment, because why I am not expecting so much from this administration is these problems that I'm highlighting now to you. I think it's the right time for him to go back to look into these aspects and make adjustments. It will help because it is still very early. Now, in the aspect of environment, I did not even hear him talk about any policy that he will be rolling out to protect our environment. Now, we are facing the adverse effects of climate change, which is causing huge food shortage in Nigeria and security crisis. Okay. Believe me, the effect of climate change, the boom of migration from the north, which the area they are facing drought and desertification, because it is of the human nature to migrate to at least survive. Okay. Now, is not being considered. Are you getting me? Right. Now, that of the social standard, the way things ought to be, sustainable social standard, we need to set a standard in this nation that each and every one of us, including him, Mr. President, that we must follow and adhere to it.
All right, we'll come back to you now. Anytime we have hike in our petrol product, goods and services just skyrocket immediately. We're talking behind the camera how transportation has been affected. If you go to the market now, things have just increased overnight. And of course, the vice president said that those who suffer more from this brunt is the poor masses. So how do we now start coming out of this dilemma, because it's already facing us and it has come to stay as a nation?
Yeah, thank you. Before I quickly just go, I appreciate my sister, but when you talked about environment, I think the president was one foremost person who really was dwelling on
that's our opinion.
I know. I'm trying to bring her because she said she wasn't aware. Okay. That was when he talked about the Eco-Atlantic Ocean that he designed, you know, and started.
Is it campaign or his policies?
I'm coming. We're talking about,
you have the floor now.
The manifesto.
So whatever she has said is our opinion.
You cannot spend 3 hours at the inaugural speech center.
Okay.
He just told you that our environment.
Can you just respond to the question?
If we did Eco-Atlantic,
can you just respond to the question?
Across the country.
Yes.
So for that, it was part of the environment was part of his agenda. Now
I don't know. You're a spokesperson to the president.
I'm coming, please. Now, your main question.
Okay.
We have problem in this country, just as you know. Even when I buy for 100 naira, the product I had will still last me for 2-3 months. Okay. Just having the insight that likely there will be a change in arrangement, and I start to increase from today. And yet we behave as if we don't fear God in this country, and this is what probably our marketers does. When there are reductions, you can remember when late President Yaradua reduced fuel from the price he made it to about 70-something naira. You see that within the whole of that 2 weeks, they refused to readjust or reduce their pump price. They were telling you they have to dispense on how they bought. But you know, now why? Because we don't also have an institutions of government that are running. Okay. More especially in this Edo. We used to have committee on produce. We used to have different subcommittees that go out to help government to enforce very basic policies of governments. Now today in Edo, we have never had, in short for the past 7 years, we have not seen anything like a committee that help to regulate or follow up
Governor Obaseki is working.
Government policies.
The governor is working.
If he is working, these ordinarily are part of those things to show that he's working.
Okay.
Our people are being starved unduly. And most state governors are already doing things.
You saw what he did with the Naira policy.
The government at the center, which
the governor, he assisted, he ensured that the Naira
by
policy.
Saying CBN was very correct, and even going to court to defend CBN.
Comrade Amadi.
No, I was trying to find out.
Chip in.
Okay. You still have the floor, but you have to wrap up now.
Okay,
wrap up now.
So what I'm trying to say is that when government introduced policies, government also create institutions to help in the implementation or in the follow-up.
I'll take that to the bank. But I'm not assuring you that I'm going to get to the bank with that. So quickly react to what he said before we get to
the question you asked, why is it that when fuel goes up and prices of things also skyrocket?
All of a sudden, yes.
It is bound to happen.
Okay.
You know, initially I told you that economic activities, our economy in Nigeria is tied to fuel and monetary policy. But that of fuel, when it increases, because our economic activities are tied around petrol and diesel, in the sense that we are not even paying attention. Our government is not paying attention enough to energy transition, where we can have alternatives to this orthodox means of energy generation. So that is why you see that when prices of fuel goes up, because people have to migrate, people have to transport from one place to the other, even farmers have to transport to bring their produce to the town, just
all
like
right,
that.
quickly, Barrister
Yeah.
Israel, most of these fuel stations increasing their prices of pump price, most of them have this fuel before in stock, but all of a sudden they are just changing the price. How can the poor masses benefit from
I heard one of
the subsidy? Quickly, you have like 10-15 seconds.
I heard one of their marketers saying that the reason why they have to increase is because they are not sure of recouping the money to buy the next one. So it is believed that they have to sell. You know, there is a capital to run a business, and it's static. So it's expected that when you buy a product and there's an increment, you should sell what can buy the next product. So I didn't find that as a valid excuse at all. Now, on the issue of the masses, I think the people that suffer it the most still remain the masses. They still remain the people. Now, the fuel prices are up. Before you know it, market products will be up. Before you know it, services will be up. So that's why it's always necessary that anytime you are going to have increment, there should be palliative in place. And thank God for Edo State, for instance, we have buses. Let the government fuel these buses, allow transportation to be free.
Okay.
I know it's not a state government policy anyway, but these are ways you can show concern for your citizens.
I'm afraid we don't have time again. A lot to talk about, but we don't have time. This is what we'll be wrapping up on the show this morning. On behalf of everyone, of course, Abuja Network Center, and everyone from the Video Network Center, I want to say thank you so much. And of course, thank you, gentlemen and ladies, for being on the show. I remain Daniel Praise, Ose Debame. Do have yourself a lovely day ahead. Bye for now.